Hello, my name is Berkeley. I'm going to be the one teaching the art class today. Today, we are actually going to be starting by drawing a skull. And the reason why we're starting with that is because that is the basis to how all faces are made. So, first I wanted to show off kind of what this can happen over time and how it will kind of look, and how you guys will be able to use this for later and whatnot. So, right there are a few face drawings that are quick. And the reason why we're going to be drawing skulls is because on something like this, you have to know how it all sets up in order to draw a face. So, we're going to be drawing skulls, which is the first step in actually learning how to draw something like this. So, first thing I want you guys to learn is why artists in like all the movies and everything hold a pencil like this. And the reason why is because it is actually harder to make a dark line. And the reason why you want it to be harder to make a dark line rather than lighter is because over time you want your lines to build up in order to make a dark line, not just go jumping straight into the deep end. So, to give you an idea, if you have an S shape like this and you're trying to mimic it over here, what a lot of people will do is they'll try and break it up into all these small little lines as they try and mimic it perfectly. But the thing that happens is if you look like right here it'll be a nice smooth line, but right here it's kind of all broken up and looks wider than it needs to be, and it can actually mess up with the drawing. So if you're trying to make a drawing, what you want to do is you want to have lots of overlapping lines. And this may look wider, but the advantage to something like this is right there, I screwed up bad. Like real bad. Like, I just straight up missed. But the advantage to something like this is because this overlapping line right here is so heavy and so built up, you don't notice it in comparison to this. So, the way you do that is there are a couple different advantages that you have. So when you have a pencil like this, you have very little room to move. So, as you move, it becomes that broken up line. But if you have it farther out, it forces you to open up a bit more. Another thing that'll happen is it also gives you less leverage on the pencil. So right here, you can really just black out a line. But when you're all the way out here, even if you grab it as hard as you can and press down, that's as dark as I can make it. And it's not nearly as dark as it was before. So, the thing you want to do is the farther back you are, the easier it is to make light lines. And mind you, I'm doing this with a colored pencil. Colored pencils are really soft. And I'm doing that so you guys can actually see what's going on. So, now that we have like an understanding of how to actually hold a pencil and why it's held this way, like some people will do it this way, some people will do it like your regular holding a pencil. I prefer to do it this way because I can walk the pencil back and forth. When you're like this, you have to kind of like do that in order to get forwards and back. This feels more natural to me, and it gives me a bit more control over the pencil. So I prefer to do that. Another thing about it is the angle that so right here is the piece of paper. The angle that you have your pencil at, whether it's here or here, will make a big difference. So over here, it will actually build up the pencil kind of like that. So as you move this way, the pencil will actually start to drag off a little bit each time. And that's what kind of gives you your color. But if you have it straight up and down, it will either be forced into the paper and just create a hard line where everything is as dark as it can go, or it will actually stutter. So what I mean by that is if you have it at the very end, and I do it, you can look at that line, and even though it's nice and dark, you can see little moments where it gets light dots in the center of it. Those light dots are actually the pencil skipping. So that's kind of why artists draw the way we do. Having an angle on it makes it so it's also easier to do a lighter line, because it gives more leverage against your hand. So if you press right here, it's going to want to lean it farther. If you're pushing straight down and dragging it, what will happen is it will try and push repeatedly into the paper. But if you have it like this and you drag it, it'll actually pull the it will pull the material off the pencil easier. So we'll go ahead and get started now. So with a skull, what I want you guys to do is focus on drawing big. Right now, I've got a full-size piece of paper, so I'm going to start like that. And in that same way that I was talking about putting down multiple lines, I'm doing that now. So, next thing we're going to do is create a T that's a little bit off-center. So if you look, and if I put a cross through the center of this drawing right now, right there would be about center of that circle. What I'm doing is I'm offsetting it. And the reason why I'm doing that is because it actually becomes easier to draw people when it is off-centered. So, right now, we've got this line right here. And what this becomes is this becomes where your nose is, where the center of your mouth is, in between your eyes. And the reason why you have this line here is to actually tell you where the center of the face is versus the center of your drawing. So, next thing we're going to kind of do is give you a bottom. And right here should be about 2/3 of what this is. So right now I have my hand fairly equal, and I'm just going to go 1, 2. So I should have this distance three times in order to create the height of the head. And this will be the point that this will be the chin, but this will be the point where we can't draw anything below this line. This line becomes right where we stop. So from here, we can kind of do that. If you notice, this line happens right about where that second break is. And this will become the corner of the jaw. So from here, we take this line, go across like that. That will give you where your eyebrows are, not where your eye is, because a lot of people will assume your eyes go here, but it's where your eyebrow goes. The reason why your eyebrow goes here is because if your eyes, like the center of your eyes went here, your eyebrow would be like way up here, and there won't be enough room for the actual skull to happen. So, from here, we're going to put in 2 big circles. I'll darken this one up for you guys. So, these are about halfway between the second and third line. And the reason why is because this, right in between them, is where your eyes are supposed to go. And if you look, I have those same circles off center from one another, and this one is slightly bigger. Not by much, but just a little bit. So, from here, we can start focusing on the corners of the head. And the corners of the head, we already have several of them in here, whether you guys know it or not. So, the corners are what we're going to draw everything off of. So right here is one, right here is one, right here is one, right here is one, and right here is going to be one. So when we're doing this, you can kind of see those circles that I put down a bit better. So as we're doing this, all we're trying to do is getting closer to the point where we can connect all of these. So these corners are going to be all points where the bone of the skull comes to the surface of the head. So from right here to right here is going to kind of be a line. On this same curve that we have here for the circle, we're going to straighten that out. We're going to do the same thing down to the corner right here, and then same thing all the way down to the bottom. When we're talking about the head, we're going to be focusing on the corners of the face. So that includes this, right back here, right up here, way up here. So, to give you an idea, you guys can actually use your finger and you can feel where these bones are, or you don't have them. You can actually push up on them, and these are the points that we were drawing today. All the way down here at the chin. Because if you look at the chin, it's flat here, and then it's got a nice hard bone where it leads back to the jaw. So in that way, we're focusing on all the points that you can feel with your finger. Even up here, where we put that triangle in, right there. It's going to be right at that angle over here. So, that's what we're working on. We're working on building the vase. So now, we need to figure out how to do that on the opposite side of our center line. So, if you look, we already have most of the lines already set up for it. You even have it down here. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take this same curve and we're going to move it at that angle. We're going to move it straight over. So right now, you see how these two angles are the same? We're going to focus on that. So we're going to take that same line and put it right where the circle, that first big one did. We're going to put it right on the edge there. So with these, they don't go out, because you have to remember this circle is what we're trying to contain everything in it. And in that same way, we're not going below this point. So for these, we're going to keep that same angle, but we're going to move them this way. So instead of them coming out from the center, they're actually going to point back in. And then we're going to bring it down to the bottom right here. And if you noticed, when I did my first, I left a little bit of extra on this side, but I didn't bring it all the way there because I'm trying to make this even on both sides. So in that same way, that from right here to right here to right here should be even as well, along with right here, right here, right here. And now we can even bring that all the way up and see it from here to here to here. So from this is the basic skull that we're going to be working on. And I know it doesn't look like one yet, but we're close. So from here, we can also assume that there's a little bit of a cheekbone. And the way the cheekbone works is if you put your finger on your face, you can feel this point. And this will actually move back to that same point where this first vertical line comes back like that. So from here, we can take this point and bring that down to the bottom as well. If you look at it this way, we won't have the triangle because we can't see the side of the head that it's happening on this side. So this will actually come down from there. So what's happening is we've got a straight line that goes vertically, and then we have it angled to go down to the bottom of the chin. And this is just an example. You guys don't have to draw that. I just wanted to make it repeated for you guys. It's not part of the drawing. Okay, so from here, we're going to focus on the other parts of bone that actually come to the surface of the skull as well. So right here and right here, you're going to have a small piece of bone that kind of wraps around the eye socket and then moves up like this. And whenever you see a drawing of a skull, there's always going to be a curve that goes around like this. And the reason why is because that, along with this, is actually where a muscle attaches to the side of the head. So right here, you can actually press that down and you can feel that as the temple of your skull. And that temple is actually the point where it's soft in comparison to right here, where it's still part of the brow and you can feel the bone underneath. So from here, we will go right into the center, and there will be a small triangle with the end cut off right there. I'm still keeping that nice and center, and I'm not quite going down to this bottom line. Keeping it just above it. And the reason why is because if you look at it, right here, it's just above your pupils of your eyes. So if you have it at your pupils, right here, if you had a pair of glasses on, if this little line moved down to right here and you had a pair of glasses on, all you would ever be able to see is the frame of the glasses, because they would be in the way of your pupils. So right here, that's the beginning of the nose. But it also comes up, comes over, as part of the brow. And the brow actually goes all the way up here and just has nice little chunks that you can see. So from here, I'm also going to create a head at the very top of the head. So that way we also include that top of the circle. It'll come back and be part of the skull over here. And if you notice what I'm doing, I'm constantly jumping around on this, so that way no one ever gets too focused on one thing. Because what'll happen is you'll be working on one little tiny thing, and unless you start jumping around, what's going to happen is this little one tiny thing is going to become perfectly drawn, and the entire thing won't have anything else with it. And it happens all the time. I do it all the time. I have to constantly make sure to jump around in my drawing. So from here, I'm going to bring this down. And if you notice, I'm not stopping all the way where I had it before. I'm actually going to kind of bring it down like this. So when I bring down the jaw like this, the whole reason why is to soften up that jaw. And the reason why I'm trying to soften it up rather than have that hard angle there is because there are actually 3 turns that happen in the jaw. The first is right here at the chin, The second is where it kind of curves up like this, and then when it curls around and moves back up. So it kind of looks like the bottom of a shoe. You see how if I take this over here, see how that same shape could be like a boot. So that boot shape goes right here. And the reason why it goes right there is because it actually is the bone that is shaped that way in order to create support for the jaw. So next thing we're going to start looking at is where the jaw separates from the top of the skull. So if we go right back to this line that we have here, go just a little bit down, we can create another cross point. If you notice this line, this line, this line, this line, and this line, even all the way up here, all of these lines are at the same angle. So all of these lines are keeping nice and straight. And the reason why we go below this line just a hair is because right here, that'll be the nose. That'll be the very, very bottom of the nose. So right here, that'll become the mouth. On a skull, it actually comes back at an angle that follows this jawline. So if you give an idea, right here we have the triangle, right here we have the half circle. So if we kind of look at it, it's starting to fill out a little bit. And if I also brought this up to show the back of the skull here. This is right where the jaw fits up underneath this bone right here. It actually inserts underneath it. So it actually goes inside the other part of the skull. So from here, this is about as far as we need to go for today. We're not going to worry about putting a nose on this because from any point on, having a giant hole here doesn't help anything. So from here, we can kind of see how it all works. So to give you guys a better understanding of how this transforms into a skull, you can start to see it fold out like that. So mind you, all of this is just to show you guys what part of the head we're actually drawing. None of this is necessary. So that's all we're going to be doing for today. Next week, we're going to have some fun with some colors and actually bring some of this stuff into an understanding and how to transform some of this stuff closer to others and how to make a overall understanding of kind of how a head works. So that's all we're going to be doing for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed.